It started just like the ominous tremors depicted in the acclaimed disaster flick Earthquake, rattling windows, shaking homes, sending dogs into a panic. But as the shaking intensifies far beyond any ordinary quake, fears arise this could be the mega-temblor scientists have urgently warned could strike anywhere in the US where major seismic threats loom. In this gripping new video, seismic experts reveal chilling evidence that a catastrophic magnitude 8.5 earthquake or greater may be imminent right here in the USA. Join us as Viewcation presents Scientists Warn of Mega Earthquake That'll Hit the US. Ominous rumblings in a notorious seismic zone. A restless giant lurks far below the Pacific Northwest, silently gathering energy that could unleash apocalyptic fury at any moment. The Cascadia Subduction Zone fault, responsible for the region's greatest recorded earthquake, now shows signs of mounting strain, sounding alarms in the scientific community. Teams of experts are racing to solve the most urgent riddles surrounding this notorious 600-mile underwater crack that threatens major cities from Vancouver, BC to Northern California. This swath of land bordering the Pacific Ocean rests squarely in the Ring of Fire, a 25,000-mile-long hotbed of volcanic and seismic activity encircling the basin. The Juan de Fuca tectonic plate constantly inches under the North American continent here, building immense pressure until a dramatic snap propels sections of land violently upwards while dropping others below sea level. While the hazard has long been recognized, the potential scale of devastation from a full Cascadia rupture came into chilling focus after a 2015 New Yorker article warned that a magnitude 9 earthquake could leave over 7 million people affected and cause, quote, the worst natural disaster in the history of North America. This doomsday scenario remains theoretical, but becomes more scientifically plausible as new data pours in. Mysterious phenomenon adds to unease. In an unsettling development, researchers recently detected a surprising phenomenon 50 miles off Central Oregon, the plume of hot mineral-rich fluid gushing from a hole in the fault zone seafloor. Dubbed Pythia's Oasis after the prophetic oracle of ancient Greece, this underwater spring offers an unexpected portal into the churning inner workings deep underground. Scientists determined the vent is expelling water at potentially scorching temperatures originating directly from the plate boundary layers that typically slide frictionlessly against one another. This discovery adds physical evidence to suspected links between fault lubrication and strain accumulation. Dramatic leaks likely cause plates to stick, then suddenly tear free. Like yanking the air compressor off an air hockey table, the fluid loss builds tension and raises risk of volatile slipping. Theory takes on new urgency. Speculation by University of Washington geophysics professor Evan Solomon that similar hidden springs nearby may correlate with abnormally strained sections of the megathrust is sparking alarms. Furthermore, having an identified vent spewing potentially searing subterranean fluid adds chilling substance to once abstract megaquake scenarios. With pressure rising ever higher between the battling continental and oceanic plates, the stage appears set for what experts dread as an inevitability, the entire fault giving way with nearly incomprehensible violence, unleashing magnitude 9 seismic shockwaves lasting up to 5 minutes. The discovery of Pythia's Oasis and possibly other fluid leak sites makes previously long-term megaquake projections seem more like an imminent threat. This casts even greater urgency on efforts already underway to monitor and analyze the intricate forces in play. Racing to pinpoint Flashpoint. While experts cannot predict exactly when seismic forces will unleash the next time along the West Coast, advanced monitoring increasingly highlights the most dangerous hotspots. Swarms of sensitive instruments embedded in boreholes measure the subtle ground motions and record aftershocks of smaller quakes. Naval research ships traverse the seafloor using sonar to map plate edges in finer detail. Satellites track minuscule land shifts while scanning for upticks in underground stress. Three-dimensional simulations depict disaster scenarios in chilling detail. The exhaustive data feeds powerful number-crunching models that estimate potential epicenters and likely impacts when the tension snaps. Local emergency managers apply the findings to fine-tune preparations and response plans. Such readiness measures become the last line of defense once the Earth begins to furiously shake. Quote, "We are in a much better position today to determine where megaquakes pose the biggest risk, so we can target those areas for special reinforcement of critical infrastructure," said U.S. Geological Survey physicist Maureen Denole. But when the energy pent up over centuries rips loose across hundreds of miles in minutes, severe damage is inevitable. The devastation wrought in 2011 when a magnitude 9 earthquake rocked Fukushima, Japan, serves as a cautionary tale. The disaster claimed 20,000 lives while triggering meltdowns at a coastal nuclear plant. Closer to home, ghost forests of dead cedars along the Washington and Oregon shore are haunting reminders of the last megajolt to strike the Pacific Northwest in 1700. That violent upheaval sent a tsunami racing across the Pacific as far away as Japan. Tribal oral histories recount how 2 native villages were obliterated without a trace, foreshadowing the havoc a future megaquake could unleash on Seattle, Portland, and other urban centers built atop liquefiable soils. Vigilance saves lives. While pinpointing exactly when the next big one will shake the West Coast remains beyond science's grasp, experts say readiness and resilience are the best tools for minimizing loss of life. Warning systems now use electronic alerts to automatically trigger safety actions when initial tremors are detected, providing precious extra moments to take cover. Building codes increasingly reflect seismic realities, from skyscrapers engineered to sway with jolts to bridges fitted with shock absorbers similar to those in cars. Past disasters fuel ongoing advances in disaster response, trauma care, backup systems, and community preparation. But experts caution against complacency, stressing that individual preparedness and infrastructure upgrades are vital where millions reside along active faults. In the end, earthquakes remain an inevitable act of nature, but one where knowledge and planning can dramatically lessen impacts. The race is on to wrest every advantage from cutting-edge science to mitigate megaquake hazards along the restless Pacific Rim when the ground inevitably heaves and rolls once more. The clock is ticking. As subsurface tensions escalate with no release in sight along the Pacific Northwest's worst seismic threat, coastal communities find themselves caught in the geopolitical crosshairs. While swarms of sensors and supercomputers race to pinpoint the next epicenter, the question looms not if, but when the Cascadia Subduction Zone will unleash its deferred fury. Now it's time to hear from you. Do you live in an earthquake-prone area? Do you have an emergency preparedness kit and plan in place? Let us know in the comments section below.